I hate to be the one to tell you this, but a lot of real estate agents here in Hawaii are not being fully honest with you about investing in Honolulu. And it's not always because they're bad people. It's often because the way our industry works makes full honesty inconvenient. Sometimes they leave out key details. Sometimes they sugarcoat the risk, so you'll buy the property. I've been doing this long enough to see it over and over again. So, in this video, I'm going to break down exactly why that happens. I'm Duc Ong, I'm a top Honolulu real estate agent, and I'm also an investor myself. I've walked dozens of buyers through Hawaii's hidden pitfalls and helped them find investments that actually work long term. And I've also been called in after the fact, when investors have already bought and now they're stuck with problems they never saw coming. Alright, so why aren't agents telling you the full truth about investing here? The short answer is the way the real estate business works doesn't make it easy to be brutally honest. The commission-only pay structure. Almost every real estate agent in Hawaii is 100% commission-based. No salary, no hourly pay. We only get paid when the deal closes. So if an agent says, hey, you probably shouldn't buy this property, they're also saying, I'm okay with not getting paid for the last few weeks or months of work. For newer agents, that might be one of only a handful of deals that'll close this year. Losing one could mean months without income. So the pressure to make it work is very real. This is especially true if they're counting on this commission to feed their family. For some agents, this means they conveniently forget about their fiduciary duty to you. Reason number 2 is the high cost of living pressure. Honolulu is expensive. The median rent is about $2,225 a month. Groceries are easily 50 to 70% higher than the mainland, and gas is over $4.50 a gallon most of the time. If an agent is living deal to deal, it's tough for them to say, this isn't the right property, let's wait. Because waiting could mean they can't pay their own bills. On a related note, if an agent doesn't own real estate themselves, that should be a red flag for you to consider. It's like buying a car from a car salesman who doesn't own a car. Reason number 3 is the competitive market and fear of losing clients. We've got over 6,000 licensed agents in Hawaii, but fewer home sales than we had before 2020. Buyers are scarce and valuable. If an agent gives you news you don't like, say that property can't legally be used for Airbnb, there's a good chance you'll just go to someone else who says, oh yeah, you're fine. Reason number 4 is the industry culture rewards closings, not outcomes. And then there's the culture. All the recognition, the leaderboards, the awards, the plaques, it's based on how many deals you close, not how those investments perform afterwards. No one's giving out a trophy for most brutally honest advice, even though that's the kind of advice that can save you from losing hundreds of thousands. So now you know why full honesty isn't always what you get. Let's dig into the actual risks, costs, and legal traps that don't get talked about enough, and how you can protect yourself from all of them. Here's the truth. Most Honolulu properties do not cash flow unless you put a massive amount down or buy all cash. The median single-family home price as of July 2025 is about $1.075 million, and the condo median price is $490,000. And at a 6.5% mortgage rate, with HOA fees, property taxes, and insurance, most buyers end up with negative cash flow. For example, one client looked at a $600,000 Waikiki condo with an $800 a month HOA fee. With 20% down, they were negative $900 a month. And that's before maintenance or vacancy. That's not a great investment, if you ask me. So, what can you do instead? Look for lower HOA buildings, ideally under $500 a month. Target units with stable, market rate tenants, and build your numbers with vacancy, repairs, and tax hikes baked in. Here, those aren't ifs, they're whens. One possibility to improve your rental income is to shift to a mid-term rental model and target traveling nurses, professionals, and those looking for temporary housing while they relocate. This comes with a minimum of 90 plus days, but it's possible to get 1.5 to 2x the long-term rate if you execute well. Short-term rental law fine print. Oahu's 90-day rule bans rentals under 90 days outside of resort zones unless you've got a rare, non-conforming use certificate, NUC. If you're violating the rule, you could be looking at fines up to $10,000 a day. Some R5 neighborhoods are marketed as short-term rental friendly, but that's just not true. For example, an investor buys a unit in a condotel in Waikiki. Their building is zoned resort hotel, and they purchase a unit in the condo hotel tower that already has short-term rental certificates in place. This means they can legally rent a unit for less than 90 days, nightly on Airbnb or VRBO. They still have to register, pay transient accommodation taxes, and follow advertising rules, but they're compliant. On Oahu, where you buy matters more than most investors realize. A Waikiki condo could generate $5,000 to $7,000 a month in vacation income. Be sure to verify permit status directly with the county in writing. Don't rely on what the listing says, and run your numbers only on legal rental income. Short-term rental permit scarcity. Outside resort zones, legal short-term rental permits, non-conforming use certificates, are capped. You can't apply for a new one. If you have one, you renew it every year or lose it forever. That little certificate can make a property worth 20 to 30% more. If you have one, or if you're buying a property with one, make compliance part of your contingencies. And once you own it, set renewal reminders everywhere, or hire a manager with a flawless track record. HOA fees and surprise assessments. HOA fees here average $762 a month. Then there are special assessments, big one-time charges for major repairs. For example, Waikiki Banyan owners got hit with a $570 a month assessment for elevator upgrades, on top of their regular dues. When conducting your due diligence, always request 3 years of meeting minutes and the latest reserve study. Avoid buildings with reserves funded under 50%. These typically come in the condo docs package, and it's more important than ever to carefully review these. It could make or break your investment returns. Financing traps. Condo hotels, leaseholds, and older condos can be hard or impossible to finance conventionally. Some require portfolio loans with bigger down payments and higher rates. Most banks won't touch them. Let's say an investor finds what looks like a great deal on a studio condo in Ala Moana listed at $320,000. The monthly HOA dues are $1,100 because the building has aging infrastructure and a large staff. Here are 3 traps to watch out for. Trap number 1 is high HOA dues that can affect the loan approval. When the lender runs the debt-to-income ratio, they don't just look at principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. They also include that $1,100 HOA. Suddenly, a buyer who thought they were qualified doesn't. Trap number 2 is non-warrantable condo status. Because the building has more than 50% investor-owned units and pending litigation over plumbing repairs, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac won't back loans there. That means buyers can't use the standard 30-year fixed loans. They're forced into portfolio loans with higher rates and stricter terms. Trap number 3 is surprise special assessment. 6 months after purchase, the Condo Association approves a $25,000 per unit special assessment for elevator modernization. That's on top of the high dues, which instantly crushes the investor's cash flow. On Oahu, especially with condos, financing is not just about the purchase price and interest rate. Smart investors always ask, is this building warrantable? What's the reserve fund status? And are there special assessments coming down the pipeline? Maintenance realities. Oahu's ocean breeze is beautiful, but it's also salty and corrosive. Salt air eats away at metal fixtures, window frames, balcony railings, and even concrete over time. Salty air, humidity, and termites eat properties alive here. Oceanfront paint jobs last about 3 to 5 years. HVACs have a much shorter life than on the mainland. Appliances will rust faster. And even if you're ready to fix something, the contractor waitlist can be months long. For example, you might have to wait 4 months for a replacement dishwasher because parts had to be shipped in and installers were backed up. So, how can you mitigate these risks? You could get a salt air inspection, which isn't just a general home inspection. Catching these issues early can prevent a $5,000 balcony repair from turning into a $50,000 structural overhaul later. Budget 2% of the property value annually for maintenance. Hawaii properties are simply more expensive to maintain than on the mainland. Materials have to be shipped in, labor is pricier, and the climate accelerates wear and tear. A good rule of thumb is if you buy a $1 million condo or home, set aside $20,000 per year for ongoing maintenance and repairs. Create a go-to list that includes a handyman for minor repairs, HVAC company for AC service, plumber and electrician for emergencies, a general contractor for larger projects or if a special assessment hits, pest control. If you need help with introductions to any of these vendors, reach out and I'd be happy to connect you with my trusted vendors. Residential A tax trap. If you own property on Oahu that's not your primary residence, assessed at over $1 million, you fall into what the city calls Residential A. That means you pay a higher property tax rate than owner-occupants. Tier 1 rate, $4 per $1,000 of assessed value, applied to the first $1 million. Tier 2 rate is $11.40 per $1,000 on any value above $1 million. For example, let's say you buy a $1.6 million condo in Kaka'ako as a second home or investment. The first $1 million is taxed at $4 per $1,000, which is $4,000. And then the remaining $600,000 is taxed at the $11.40 per $1,000, which is $6,840. So the total is $10,840. Now, compare that to the same condo if it were your primary residence. The whole $1.6 million would fall under the standard residential rate at $3.50 per $1,000. That's $5,600 a year instead of $10,840. That's a $5,000 plus swing every single year. So, how should you prepare for this? Check the county classification. Before closing, verify how the property is taxed. Residential A versus owner-occupied. And don't assume. Run conservative numbers. If you won't live in the property, calculate your pro forma at the higher residential A rate so your deal doesn't collapse later. And talk to a CPA. Depending on your goals, holding the property in an LLC, trust, or other entity may or may not offer tax advantages. A qualified CPA can walk you through the implications. Leasehold pitfalls. Most real estate buyers on the mainland assume that when you buy a property, you own both the building and the land underneath. But in Hawaii, that's not always true. With fee simple ownership, you own the land and the improvements. With leasehold, you only own the unit, while the land belongs to a separate landowner. So, why is leasehold riskier? Expiration dates. Every lease has an end date. When it expires, ownership of the unit can revert to the landowner, meaning the value of your investment would become worthless. Reset clauses. Many leases have renegotiation or reset provisions. Ground rent can double or more overnight when those clauses kick in. Financing issues. Most lenders require at least 30 to 35 years left on the lease after the loan matures. If the lease has only 20 years left, financing options shrink dramatically, forcing buyers to pay all cash. For example, a Waikiki condo was listed for what looked like a bargain, $120,000. On paper, it seemed like a steal compared to the $400K plus fee simple units in the same neighborhood. But when buyers dug into the fine print, there was only 19 years left on the ground lease. In 2 years, a reset clause would kick in, spiking ground rent by thousands per month. The result is the unit's resale value would plummet as lenders pulled back, and buyers would face a flood of unexpected costs. That bargain was really a ticking time bomb. So, how can you deal with this? First of all, I would avoid leasehold properties altogether, since it rarely makes sense from an investment perspective. If leasehold does work for your situation, here are a few tips. Read the lease carefully. Before you even make an offer, confirm lender requirements. If you plan to finance, check with your lender how much lease term they require beyond the loan payoff date. Run the exit numbers. Ask yourself, who's gonna buy this unit from me in 10 years if the lease expires in 12? Will cash buyers still see value? Talk to a CPA and attorney. Structuring leasehold property in a portfolio can have unique tax and liability implications. Professional advice is critical here. Aging inventory on Oahu. Many of the condo towers in town were built in the 1960s and 70s. That means a huge portion of Oahu's condo inventory is now 50 to 60 years old. And buildings of that age often need expensive infrastructure repairs. For example, one Kaka'ako high-rise recently had to replace its vertical plumbing risers, essentially the arteries of the building. The cost was huge, and each unit owner was hit with a $28,000 special assessment. Owners who thought they were cash flowing suddenly had to come up with tens of thousands of dollars out of pocket, wiping out years of returns. This isn't unusual. In older Waikiki buildings, you'll hear similar stories. Why does this matter? For investors? Well, the financing impact. Lenders often scrutinize buildings with pending litigation or underfunded reserves. In extreme cases, the building may be considered non-warrantable, making loans difficult or impossible. Cash flow shock. An investor projecting $400 a month in net income can see their entire pro forma destroyed by $20,000 plus special assessment. Resale value. Units in buildings with ongoing assessments often sit on the market longer and sell at discounts. So how can you prepare for this? Review the reserve study. This document outlines the building's long-term maintenance plan and whether the association is putting enough money away to cover those big repairs. A low reserve balance is a red flag. Read the meeting minutes. Condo board meetings often discuss upcoming repairs before they're officially assessed. This is where you'll catch early warnings. Now, I'm going to talk about how you can find an honest agent who will truly be a fiduciary and represent your interests. Look for an agent who can walk away. The best agents don't need your deal to pay their bills. High-producing agents, especially those with repeat investor clients, can afford to give you honest advice, even if it means telling you not to buy. That's a huge red flag filter. An agent who has commission breath will push you into a bad property. An agent who's financially secure can afford to protect your long-term interests. Verify their investment experience. There's a big difference between an agent who sells lifestyle homes and one who understands cash flow, cap rates, and zoning laws. A seasoned investment-focused agent should be comfortable talking about numbers, financing traps, and exit strategies, not just granite countertops and ocean views. Test them before you commit. A simple way to separate pros from rookies is to ask them, what areas or property types should I avoid as an investor? A strong agent will immediately share insights, maybe warning you about buildings with sky-high HOAs, neighborhoods with weak rental demand, or properties that don't pencil out under residential aid tax rules. If they fumble the question, dodge it, or can't give specifics, that's your cue to walk away. That's exactly what I help my clients avoid. I'll give you the truth, the numbers, the risk, and whether the property fits your goals before you buy. If you're thinking about investing in Honolulu, let's talk before you make a decision you can't undo. My contact info is in the description below. If you're not quite ready to reach out yet, scan the QR code to grab my free Oahu real estate investing guide. And if you want to see the biggest mistakes Honolulu investors make, click here.